The plane moved smoothly through the cold air at 30,000 feet. But something about this flight felt different from the very beginning. Even before the trouble started, there was a strange tension inside the cabin. Some passengers felt it, some ignored it. But one person sensed it the most, an old man sitting quietly in seat 1 for A. His face looked calm, but his eyes carried the sharpness of someone who had seen storms. It's much bigger than the sky outside. His name was unknown to everyone on the plane. He boarded last, walked slowly with a slight limp, and spoke to no one. The flight attendants noticed his straight posture and focused eyes. He looked like someone who didn't miss anything happening around him, but he kept to himself, hands folded, breathing steady, as if waiting for something only he knew was coming. The captain announced clear weather and an easy flight ahead. But the sky had its own plans. Half an hour after takeoff, the first jolt came. It wasn't strong, but it was enough to make the passengers look up. Some gasped softly. Others tightened their seatbelts. The old man did not move. His eyes opened wider for a moment, then narrowed again, studying the vibrations in the floor and the sound of the engines. Another jolt. This time sharper. The flight attendants exchanged worried glances. One of them approached the cockpit, whispering something quickly. No one could hear what she said, but the old man's eyes followed her until the cockpit door closed again. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered, and then it happened. The sound no passenger ever wants to hear. A loud boom. The plane shook violently, and several passengers screamed. Drinks fell. Bags slipped from the overhead bins. One child started crying. The captain's voice came on, tight and controlled. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing an engine issue. Please remain seated. But there was fear in his voice. Everyone heard it. The old man didn't panic. He closed his eyes for a moment, listening not to the captain, but to the engines outside. He counted the seconds between each vibration, each drop in power. His breathing slowed even more, like he was preparing himself. The plane dropped suddenly. Oxygen masks fell from above. The cabin filled with screams and confused cries. People grabbed the masks, shaking, terrified. But the old man did not grab his mask. Instead, he reached for the armrest and slowly pushed himself to his feet. The nearest flight attendant rushed to him. "Sir, please sit down. We need you to remain seated." The old man looked at her, calm but firm. His voice was deep and steady when he spoke. "Take me to the cockpit." The flight attendant froze. His tone wasn't angry, but it carried authoritarian authority. Authority you don't argue with. Authority that feels earned. SRR. "Who are you?" she whispered. The old man didn't answer her question. Instead, he said a short phrase, 2 words. A call sign. A call sign so old, so powerful, so legendary, that she felt her breath stop for a moment. It was a name she had heard before, maybe in a documentary or an old interview. But she never expected to hear it on a plane filled with normal people. Her voice trembled. You can't be." But the old man didn't wait. "Take me to the cockpit," he repeated quietly. But this time, there was something else in his voice: urgency. The plane shook again. Another alarm beeped somewhere near the cockpit. The flight attendant looked between the trembling passengers and the old man's steady eyes. She hesitated for only 1 second. Then she nodded. "Follow me." The passengers watched as she guided the old man toward the front of the plane. Some whispered. Others stared, confused. A few were too terrified to notice anything except the shaking plane. When they reached the cockpit door, the flight attendant knocked. A crackling voice from inside answered, "Not now. We're trying to. It's urgent." She yelled back. The door opened slightly, just enough for the captain to look out. He saw the old man. His eyes widened. For 1 second, the captain forgot the failing plane. "You," he whispered, shock in his voice. "I've read about you." The old man stepped inside without a word. The door closed behind him. Inside the cockpit, chaos reigned. Warning lights flashed on every panel. A loud alarm repeated again and again. The pilots were fighting the controls, sweat on their foreheads, fear in their eyes. The plane continued dropping. The old man looked around quickly. His eyes scanned every dial, every screen, every red warning sign. Where another person would panic, he looked like he was simply solving a puzzle he had solved many times before. "Tell me the status," he said calmly. The captain swallowed hard. "Left engine, gone. Right engine failing. Hydraulics weakening. Controls barely responding. ATC hasn't confirmed emergency runway yet." The old man nodded slowly. Then he reached for a small switch under the dashboard. "What are you doing?" the young co-pilot asked. "Saving your aircraft." The old man replied simply. He flipped the switch. The alarms changed tone. The right engine stopped shaking. The plane's descent slowed slightly. The captain looked stunned. "Hey, how did you know that would work?" The old man didn't answer the question. Instead, he leaned forward to the radio. "This is Flight 417, he said, "requesting immediate military support." The radio crackled. "Flight 417, identify yourself." The old man spoke his call sign again. Silence. Total silence. Then the voice on the radio came back, softer, almost shaken. "Copy that." "Sir, help is on the way." The pilots stared at him, disbelief in their eyes. Outside the cockpit window, the sky began to change. Small, dark shapes appeared far away, approaching fast. The old man saw them first, and he whispered, almost to himself, "They're here." The dark shapes outside grew larger with every passing second. Even though the passengers could not see clearly through the windows, the pilots inside the cockpit recognized the formation instantly. 2 F-35 fighter jets were approaching fast, cutting through the clouds like silver arrows. The captain felt his stomach twist. It was rare for fighter jets to come this close to a civilian aircraft, unless the situation was truly extreme. The old man watched the approaching jets with calm eyes. He sat beside the captain, his hands steady on the emergency controls. His breathing was slow and controlled. The pilots felt an odd sense of comfort around him, as if he knew every detail about the sky and every secret hidden inside the machine they were flying. The captain swallowed hard and asked in a low voice, "Sir, are those jets here because of you?" The old man didn't answer directly. He only said, "They will keep us safe." His voice was calm, but there was a mysterious heaviness in his tone. It was the voice of someone who had commanded skies long before this day. The plane shuddered again. Smoke rose near the right engine, and a soft warning beep echoed in the cockpit. The co-pilot looked terrified. He was young, maybe in his late 20s. This was supposed to be a normal flight, and now he was facing a disaster that he had never trained for. "What do we do now?" the co-pilot whispered. The old man leaned forward, studying the control panel with sharp eyes. "First, stabilize the descent. You're dropping too fast." The captain tried to adjust the controls, but they were stiff, almost frozen. "It's not responding." The old man extended his hand. "Let me." The captain didn't argue. He lifted his hand off the control yoke slowly, almost respectfully. The old man wrapped his fingers around it, feeling the weight of the failing aircraft. He pushed the yoke gently, then pulled back with a precise motion. His hands moved as if he had done this a million times. The plane leveled slightly. The co-pilot stared. "How? How did you do that?" The old man answered without looking at him. "This is an older model of aircraft. I flew something very similar many years ago. Manual override can still respond if you work with the machine, not against it." They all felt the descent slow just a little bit. Not enough to save them, but enough to buy time. And time was all they needed. The radio crackled again. "Flight 417, this is Eagle Control. F-35 escorts are in formation. Please confirm pilot identity." The captain reached for the radio, but the old man stopped him gently. He pressed the button himself. "This is call sign," he said firmly. Inside the cockpit, everything went silent. The voice on the radio returned. But this time, it carried shock, respect, and fear all at once, "Sir. We thought you were gone." The old man didn't respond to that. His face remained calm. Eyes focused on the smoke outside the window. "Send the F-35s to guide us below the storm layer," he said. "Copy that, sir." Escorts moving now. The F-35s shifted formation immediately. They moved closer to the damaged passenger jet, one on each side, steady and protective. Their presence alone eased the tension in the cockpit. It was rare to see fighter jets fly like guardians rather than hunters inside the cabin. The passengers panicked when they saw the jets. Some screamed. Some thought the plane was being attacked. Children cried. Mothers prayed. The flight attendants struggled to keep everyone calm, but one of them, the same one who had taken the old man to the cockpit, stood near the front and whispered to the others. He knows what he's doing. He's someone important. Back inside the cockpit, the old man adjusted a few switches. Hydraulics at 20%. We have 10 minutes before the control system collapses. The captain's eyes widened. 10 minutes. We're too high to land and too low to hold altitude. I know, the old man said softly. How can we survive this? The co-pilot asked, voice shaking. The old man turned toward him. His eyes were calm, almost comforting. I've landed worse. A small spark of hope filled the cockpit. A small spark of hope filled the cockpit. The old man checked the altitude. We need to reach lower air where the pressure will help us. I'll control the pitch. You monitor the engine temperature. The captain and co-pilot nodded quickly. The old man guided the plane like it was an extension of his own body. His movements were slow, precise, and confident. He even predicted small turbulence pockets before they hit. The F-35s moved gracefully beside them. Matching every movement of the failing aircraft, the radio crackled again. Ground crews are preparing for emergency landing. Runway is cleared. Fire units standing by. The co-pilot leaned closer. Sir, they're treating you like someone special. The old man gave a faint smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm just a pilot. But the captain knew better. Pilots don't get fighter jet escorts. Legends do. The old man didn't correct him. Outside, the clouds grew thicker. Wind pushed against the plane. The wings rattled. One of the overhead lights flickered, then went dark. We're losing electrical systems, the captain warned. Then we do it the old way, the old man said. He reached down and turned off several auto systems. The cockpit suddenly felt quieter. More real, more human. No computers. No autopilot. No electronic help. Only skill. Only experience. Only the old man. The F-35s dropped lower, signaling the safe path through the storm clouds. The old man followed their lead, guiding the heavy aircraft with steady hands. The co-pilot checked the altitude again. We're dropping fast. Too fast. I know, the old man replied, but we'll make it. The plane pushed through thick clouds. Lightning flashed in the distance. Rain smashed against the windows. The aircraft felt like it was being thrown around in the air, but the old man never flinched. He watched the horizon. Every detail, every shape, every signal from the sky. Finally, the clouds thinned below them. The runway came into view through the gray mist. The captain gasped. We made it through. The old man didn't smile. Not yet. The real challenge was still ahead, the landing. And only he knew how close they were to disaster. The runway was visible now. God, a long dark strip cutting through the misty landscape below. Emergency lights flashed along its edges, glowing like signals of hope for everyone on board. But inside the cockpit, the tension only grew heavier. The old man knew something that the others didn't. Just seeing the runway didn't mean they would reach it safely. The captain looked at the altitude monitor. His voice trembled. We're descending too fast. If we keep this rate, we'll hit the ground before reaching the runway. The co-pilot paled. What do we do? The old man's eyes narrowed. His voice stayed calm. We lighten the aircraft. Hey. The captain blinked. You mean dump the fuel? Yes, the old man said. All of it. Now. The co-pilot hesitated. But sir, if we dump everything, we get only one shot at landing. There is no second chance. There never was a second chance, the old man replied. Do it. The co-pilot flipped the emergency fuel release switch with shaking fingers. A deep humming sound filled the aircraft as thousands of kilograms of fuel vented out into the air behind them. The plane rose slightly, responding to the reduced weight. But the old man wasn't done. Now angle the flaps. We need more lift. The captain moved quickly, following his instructions without question. The old man's hands guided the control yoke with expert precision. He felt the aircraft understood its fears, its limits, its pain. It was almost as if he was talking to an old friend. Outside, the two F-35s tightened their formation. Their pilots watched the damaged plane closely, ready to transmit every change in wind pressure and altitude. One of them radioed in, "Sir, you're losing altitude too fast. If you descend at this rate, you'll miss the runway." The old man responded calmly, "Hold formation. Guide us through the wind pocket at 2 o'clock. "Yes, sir." Although the fighter pilot was trained to speak with confidence, there was something special in his tone. Respect. Deep, almost emotional respect. Back inside the cabin, passengers clung to their seats. The plane shook, as if the sky itself was trying to tear it apart. A woman whispered prayers under her breath. A young man cried silently. Children hid their faces in their parents' arms. People didn't know whether to hope or to accept the worst. One flight attendant walked down the aisle, trying her best to give courage. "Everything will be okay," she repeated, even though she didn't fully believe it. But when she glanced toward the cockpit door, she felt a strange comfort. The old man was in there, and something inside her told her he wouldn't let them fall. Back in the cockpit, a new alarm beeped sharp and loud. The co-pilot's voice cracked. "We're losing hydraulic control over the brakes." The old man didn't even blink. "Then we land without them." The captain stared at him. "Without brakes? That's suicide." "No," the old man whispered. "It's skill." He adjusted the throttle ever so slightly. The engine coughed smoke, but obeyed. He pushed the yoke forward, guiding the nose of the plane downward with incredible care. "Steady," he murmured. "Just a little more." Outside, the F-35s moved into a protective arc. One pilot spoke softly over the radio. "Sir, it's an honor to fly beside you again." The old man didn't reply. He didn't need to. The runway grew larger. The landing gear lowered. But the warning lights flashed violently. One wheel wasn't locking into place. The co-pilot gasped. "The left gear hasn't locked. We'll skid." The old man nodded. "Then we angled the descent. Land on the right gear first." "That's impossible for a passenger jet," the captain cried. "Not for this one," the old man said. "And not today." The wind howled outside. Memories flickered in the old man's mind. Another aircraft, another impossible landing many years ago. Back then, he had saved lives too. This time, the stakes were even higher. He pushed the throttle gently. The ground rushed upward. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. "Brace for landing," the captain announced shakily. The old man didn't speak. He didn't breathe. His hands moved like they were part of the plane itself. The wheels touched down. A loud screech tore through the cabin as the right gear slammed onto the runway. Sparks flew behind them. The plane leaned dangerously to one side. Passengers screamed. The old man fought the angle with all his strength. "Hold," he yelled. The left gear hit the ground a moment later, wobbling violently. The plane skidded, tipping dangerously. But the old man held the controls steady, guiding it like a wounded animal back into balance. Smoke rose around the wheels. The runway passed beneath them. It's faster and faster. "We're running out of runway." The co-pilot shouted. "I know," the old man said through clenched teeth. The plane's brakes barely responded. The old man tried one last maneuver. He turned the yoke sharply left. The plane drifted sideways, and then it stopped. Silence complete. Unbelievable silence. Everyone inside froze. For several seconds, no one dared to breathe. The old man kept his hands on the controls, eyes closed, chest rising and falling with slow, heavy breaths. The captain was the first to speak, voice trembling. We made it." The co-pilot wiped tears from his eyes. "He saved us. He really saved us." Outside, the F-35s circled once above the runway, almost like paying tribute. Then they broke formation and disappeared into the clouds. The old man finally opened his eyes. He had done it again, but this time felt different. The weight of the past and the fear of the present had met in one moment, and he had survived them both. The captain looked at him with pure awe. "Sir, who are you really?" The old man unbuckled his seatbelt slowly. He looked straight ahead, past the cracked windshield, past the smoke, past the flashing emergency lights. "Outside, I'm just someone who didn't want to let them die," he said quietly. But the captain knew that wasn't the full truth. No ordinary man could have done what he just did. The legend was real, and this was only the beginning of the reveal. The storm over the Pacific grew darker as the formation of jets fought to stay together. Lightning flashed across the clouds like long cuts of white fire. Every pilot felt the danger rising. Every second felt heavier than the last. But inside the old rescue aircraft, veteran known only by his forgotten call sign, Ghost Leader sat calm, almost silent. His face did not move, his breathing steady, his eyes sharp like he had lived this moment before. The young crew inside looked at him as if he was something unreal, a man who should not be alive doing something no one else could. Then the radio cracked. Mayday. Mayday. Fuel dropping. Engines unstable. It was the lead F-35 pilot, a young captain. His voice shook. The storm was killing their visibility. Their instruments were failing one by one. Ghost Leader slowly stood up from his seat, like a soldier rising from the past. "Patch me through," he said softly. The crew obeyed without question. A second later, every jet in the formation heard the same thing, the same voice that had stopped entire air bases. The same voice that had once commanded the skies. "This is Ghost Leader. I have visual on your formation. Follow my instructions exactly." The radio went dead silent. The young pilots froze. That name. That call sign. It was supposed to be a legend. A story from another war. A man whose missions were classified, whose survival was impossible, whose skills were unmatched. And now he was guiding them. Skills were unmatched. And now he was guiding them. The veteran looked through the storm like he could see every jet, every cloud, every thread. His mind moved faster than any radar. His hands gripped the controls with the strength of a man who once saved lives at 30,000 feet. F-35-1. "Lower your nose 2 degrees. Chew. Cut your left engine to 30%. 3. Maintain distance. Don't drift." His commands were gentle but firm, simple but life-saving. Inside the fighter jets, the young pilots followed him like soldiers in a long-forgotten war. They did not question him. They did not doubt him. His voice carried something they had never heard, a mix of courage, memory, and absolute control. Thunder shook the sky. Winds pushed the jets like toys. But Ghost Leader did not stop. He kept giving instructions, sharp, clear, perfect, and slowly. The formation stabilized. The storm broke open. A small tunnel of clear air appeared like the sky itself was giving them one final chance. Ghost Leader pointed forward. "There, take that opening. Stay tight." The F-35s pushed through the narrow path. One by one, they escaped the danger. One by one, they entered safe airspace. A shout of relief filled the radios. "Ghost Leader, we made it." But the veteran did not answer. The rescue crew turned toward him. His hands were still on the controls. His eyes stared straight at the sky. But his breathing was fading. The effort, the strain, and his old injuries had pushed him beyond his limits. He whispered, "Just loud enough for the crew to hear, as long as one pilot makes it home. The mission is never lost." And then, silence. The crew shouted his name, shook his shoulder, tried to wake him, but Ghost Leader had already taken his final flight. Minutes later, the radio crackled again. "Ghost Leader, request you join formation." "Ghost Leader, do you copy?" The young pilots waited. No answer came. One of the F-35 captains spoke softly, voice breaking. "We will carry your name in the sky, always." not high above the Pacific. The formation of jets flew in perfect silence, honoring the man who rescued them with nothing but courage, memory, the call sign that would never be forgotten, Ghost Leader, the legend who returned only once to save them all. The end asterisk.